I'm focused on his spirit cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, hello. This is Christina Barton. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello, hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barton. Today, we're going to be talking about a new clip from Anthony Mackie, who is, playing Captain America. He, plays Sam Wilson in the MCU, and so, after Endgame, Chris Evans, left Marvel Universe, and they aged out Captain America because he aged and became Joe Biden, and and so he got replaced by Anthony Mackie. So maybe about 2 weeks ago, we talked about a controversy, quote unquote. No, it was a controversy. It was definitely controversy. There's no quote unquote. It was a controversy of some comments that he made overseas that I wasn't fond of, but I wanted to give him a little bit of grace. And then he did clarify later and say, no, I respect, America, et cetera, et cetera. So now there's new comments, and I feel like he has a target on his back, and I'm going to defend him from the comments that he made, because I just think, I don't know, some folks on the right are just so ready to be against things that they, I don't know, sometimes they don't take any nuance, but I don't even think this is a nuanced position. I just think it's just an overreach of complaining. And we just have to make sure that we don't get so reactionary that we're just like opposite of the left, because some of these responses to some things that he said are really quite silly. So I want to talk about that. Also, the media is really, really trying their darndest to separate Elon Musk from Donald Trump. And Time Magazine put out a new cover with, Elon in front of the desk. And they even asked Trump about it. And he made like a little joke about the New York Times. Not the New York Times, I'm sorry. It was Time Magazine. And it's very transparent what's going on. And out of everyone that they fear, they really fear Elon, and they really fear how Trump is moving so quickly to really go after their bureaucracy. And maybe they thought that Trump 2025 was going to be like Trump 2017, and that's just not the animal that they're dealing with. They really took advantage of how green Trump was when he was president before. And it being a non-consecutive term for him is going to prove to be, I think, really, really good for Trump, and I assume America as well. But before we jump into everything, I want to encourage you guys to go to blacktnews.com, check out different content in the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation to the website, because it does cost to stream, run my site, all that stuff, so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it, and appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that we have available at the store as well. We got some pro-life stuff, like the Life Wins and Ron Casey Aborted, and you got the Black Tea mugs and My Money, My Business. This Cole Frederick Douglass shirt says the Constitution's Glorious Liberty document. I have many books you guys can check out. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, there's a link in the description. It'll take you to an Amazon page that will have like a list of my books. But you guys can go to blacktnews.com, and there's a banner on the merchandise page that'll take you to my website, ninjadustpublishing.com, where you guys can also learn more. And I have books like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion, you guys can check out and read on Amazon. I've got children's chapter books as well, and I'm gonna of course mention my historical fiction, fantasy, The Color of God's Eyes. I think the American Civil War meets X-Men. It's a really, really neat story. Hello to everyone in the chat. Thank you guys for hopping in, joining in, watching today. Hope you guys are all doing well. I see YouTube is busy chit-chatting, and I guess Facebook will catch up sometime. But thank you guys for joining me live, and thank you to those of you who watch back later. I know there's, maybe who watch back after you get home from work and you're cooking in the kitchen, whatnot. So, thank you for watching. So, anyway, I guess we will start with the Anthony Mackie story. So, Anthony Mackie, he plays Sam Wilson, who is Falcon, and Falcon took over as Captain America. And there's people who feel like it should have been someone else. Some people feel like it's a woke thing. It's really not a woke thing. Sam, is his buddy in the comics, has held the mantle. So has Bucky. I can understand the comic books and not being Bucky. I don't want to get into a big argument with you guys about whether you think it should have been Bucky or not, and recap everything that's led to people's feelings about different things. So the first controversy he got into, he's overseas, and he said a comment like, "There's things that I look into relate to Captain America, and being like America isn't like one of them," and he lists off some other values, and people are like, "What? Like, how can you be Captain America and it doesn't represent America?" That's like saying, "Oh, I really like a lot of things about Pizza Hut, but not pizza," and making like different comparisons like that, and people just assume that he hated America, and et cetera, et cetera. So I didn't like the comments, and I said, I think what he's trying to make an appeal overseas to these people, because they're pitching it this movie internationally, and the point that he's trying to make is there's a lot of attributes that the characters have that aren't necessarily uniquely American, and he did apologize after the extreme backlash to his comments and said, "I respect everyone who serves, and I am a proud American," et cetera, et cetera. So now this new controversy, I think, is a little dumb, to be frank, and maybe you guys will feel differently, but I think it's a little dumb. That's so Discussing Film shared, which is a page on X, shared this snippet of him talking. And there's a lot of retweets that say some really silly stuff and some comments, and people are dogging the comments that I do feel are silly. So I'm gonna go ahead and play this clip of Anthony Mackie.
He had to drop out of school in 8th grade to pick cotton with my grandfather. And I'm Captain America. So when you look at it that way, like, it hits different, Like my brother, I've heard a million stories about my brother at his time at Morehouse, and
the rest of it is about like Morehouse, high school, college stuff. So that's the line that my father was told he had to drop out of school in 8th grade to pick cotton with my grandfather, and I'm Captain America. When you look at it that way, it hits different. And that's what people seem to be upset about. So there was this retweet that from Sports and Nonsense. Mackie's father owned a roofing business. Mackie's brother was an associate professor of engineering at Tulane. Mackie went to Juilliard and became a wildly successful actor. Please stop telling us how oppressed you are and how awful America is. It's made up. You had a great life that consisted of normal struggles everyone went through. Your dad is a very successful businessman that raised 2 successful children. Sad you wouldn't choose to focus on how America's greatness allowed for that instead of making up some bleep, poor me race baiting trash. I'm confused. Where is all the hostility for that clip? Is there like a lot I'm just missing here? Yes, Mackie's father did own a roofing business, but he didn't own one in the 8th grade. He said his father had to drop out in the 8th grade to go pick cotton. And then some people have comments like, his dad picked cotton. What year was his dad born? Like, picking cotton didn't stop in the 1800s. just because slavery and stuff in it, people started to pick cotton. People did sharecropping. So what is the issue here of him mentioning my dad had to do this, and now I'm in a position where I get to play Captain America? He didn't say he was oppressed. This is just a story of progress. Why are we upset about someone talking about progress? The beautiful American story. And it's not just, it has to be a black story, white story. That's where you came from. And his dad, I assume, worked very hard, was an entrepreneur, and made his roofing company, was able to provide for his family and provide opportunity for his family. And now his son gets to do something that's really cool. You know, he represents, he's an actor, and he's representing an iconic symbol of American virtue. That's a great success story. So why are you mad about it? Why are you mad about it? He didn't say I'm the most oppressed person in the world, but you guys keep picking on him. He might start talking about that. That's not what he said. I don't, how is that story any different than Clarence Thomas talking about his grandfather being a sharecropper? How is that any different than Senator Tim Scott talking about how his grandfather was a sharecropper? How's it any different? I recall when he was talking about that, I think on the campaign trail, maybe when he ran in 2024, maybe this past election, and you had Glenn oh gosh, what's his last name? There was a Glenn Klessner. He's a fact checker for the Washington Post, and tried to do like a fact check on his story, and people were trashing the Washington Post, like, why are you trying to just pick apart and demean this black man? And they're like, it's true, but there's more to the story. And then it was behind a paywall, so of course a lot of people aren't even going to see the true story to see that it's a nothing burger how they're presenting the fact check. And they're like, we're not even going to rate it, but so people see the headline and they're like, give the impression that Tim Scott's lying about his family background. But it's a cool story. Clarence Thomas, family sharecroppers, to the man sitting on the Supreme Court, Tim Scott, sharecroppers, to man sitting in the Senate, you know. And Anthony Mackie has a story of, hey, sharecroppers, to I'm playing Captain America. I got a cool job. It hits different. Like, I don't understand that. Just because someone's mentioning, where you come from, and he didn't mention race in that clip, if that's the implication, but like, even if he did, that still shows progress, American progress, great American progress, given the history of the US. If I told you guys a story and said, my grandmother, my dad's mother, when she was a little girl, her mother had to tell her, when you go to the store, don't acknowledge your father. Don't call him your father. Because if they find out that he's black, they will fire him. So if I said my family went to my sister working as an urban engagement director to help get President Trump elected, that sounds like a really amazing story. But just because I mentioned that first part of the story doesn't mean that I don't like America or that we have some kind of oppressed life. Because I'm telling you of the progress, and that's good. And the reason why it's good to talk about the progress of America and the American story, the underdog story. Everybody loves the freaking underdog story, and people here pissed off about it. Like, the reason why it's really important is because you have these really bitter, terrible people who are leftist progressives who talk about wanting to just tear down the institutions of America nonstop. A friend of mine sent me a TikTok video the other day. They wanted, I don't know if they wanted me to reply to it, but I know that he planned to do a reply to it, and I probably will. That was just, when I just saw it at first, I was like, it was just like dumb mumbo jumbo jargon, and I just kind of didn't have the energy to address it at the time. And I'm like, maybe I still will, but it was a young woman, a young black woman. She had to be early 20s. talking about, I've always hated this country. I've always hated this country. That's what she said. And she said that there are people who are stupid enough to think that it's going to get better. And she said it's not going to get better for anyone other than like white men unless we tear down everything and start over. That's what she said. That's what this young, indoctrinated young Black woman said. And it's such a stupid, unearned opinion that just spits in the face of the whole freaking American story, the whole entire American experiment, just spits in his face, spits in the face of her ancestors and mine, assuming that she comes from slave ancestry like I do. Just spits in their face. It's just not true. Her current view of America, period. And it is critical race theory mumbo jumbo. But which, by the way, she went on a rant. Her video was titled Brain Dump. So I wrote in the comment of my friend's reply video. Oh yeah, he did a reply video. I wrote in a comment in his reply video that said CRT, which is critical race theory, CRT brain dump. And that got flagged by TikTok. That got flagged. They have not approved or rejected my appeal yet. But I'm like, really? Again? Okay. So I got flagged for saying CRT brain dump. Her video is captioned brain dump, like right on the video, but I get in trouble for that. Okay. But beyond the CRT nonsense, because they do believe that you have to tear down the institutions and start over. The idea that we can just try to live in a colorblind society moving forward, they reject that. They reject a lot of things that came out of the sentiments that came out of the civil rights movement. They think we need to tear everything down and start anew, and they're like dystopian, weird, progressive, I don't know, influence. But the people of our past knew that things could get better, that the world would be better because they would build a better world, that there were good bones in the country, like that the shirt I keep showing you guys, saying, hey, this is a cool shirt. It has this Frederick Douglass quote on it. The Constitution is a glorious liberty document. He always believed the Constitution had good bones. Always had good bones. Martin Luther King Jr., I Have a Dream speech, like he talked about how there's a promissory note that should just needed to be cashed. So they were good bones. They just needed to apply to all people equally. So this idea that we need to destroy everything, dismantle everything, we can't move forward unless we take everything down. I hate to see what we would rebuild in your image, because a lot of these people screaming and crying racism all the time are racist. They are racist. When she was complaining about how everything just, will always be pro-white people, I don't get the feeling that that's because she likes everyone equally. Those weren't the vibes that I was getting. But people of the past, there's probably going to be controversy again. I'm assuming Lift Every Voice will probably be sung at the Super Bowl again. I don't know, maybe, but they sang it last time. They sang the time before. I've always liked the song. I've written pieces about, like, I don't like all the backlash to the song. I can understand people being upset with Lift Every Voice, which is quote unquote nicknamed the Black National Anthem. Yes, people actually nickname it that, not because we want a Black nation or something like that, but it's just like it's just a nickname. It's not that deep. But that is what people have called it. I've sung that song since I was a kid. And but I know that there was like this sort of heinous, anti-American, let's get rid of 4th of July, let's just have Juneteenth, let's not do Star Spangled Banner, let's just have the Lift Every Voice and just replace all these things that unite us all with this niche sort of thing. And I reject that, and I understand people being concerned about it, but the song Lift Every Voice is really beautiful. And there's lines that say, sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing a rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won, right? So it's saying, like, just look at the past and how far we've come and how our faith has prevailed us through it all. And look around right now with the knowledge of how far we've come, and we can have a lot of hope for where we're going because there has been progress. There has been progress. So that ignorant girl saying, "Oh, these stupid people who think that America's going to get better," it has gotten better. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? I don't have to get to any back of the bus because of my skin color. I don't have to lie and pretend I'm Italian, so I don't have to move. Okay, which is something my grandma did do at least once. You know, we don't have the colored water fountains and all that stuff. There's a lot of things that are just crazy that happened in the past that don't happen now. They don't happen now. Things that your parents or their grandparents or your great grandparents, you don't experience those things. I'm not saying that people don't experience racism today. I've probably experienced way more racism than the average leftist because they freaking hate Black conservatives. I get I'm treated terribly every day by some of these people, which is another point of all these people screaming racism. A lot of them are the problem, and I don't want to see the world remade in their racist image. I don't. But it's not like how it was. So Anthony Mackie saying like my father had to drop out in the 8th grade to go be a sharecropper or pick cotton or whatever, and now I get to be Captain America. That's a great story. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. So people are just tripping. I'm sorry. Like it. And let me show you guys some other of these tweets, man. Like what? I don't believe that. He was born in 78. His dad was born in the 40s at the earliest. Who was still picking cotton in the 40s and 50s? Like, it's just like, so people are ragging on some of these folks for just kind of not knowing some basic kind of history stuff. And some people were like, well, my dad worked in a coal mine and he didn't complain. It's like, he wasn't complaining. He was just saying it's cool. And someone was like, well, Wikipedia said that his dad was a roofer. His dad wasn't roofing in the 8th grade. And someone said, do these people in these comments think cotton picking jobs vanished in 1865? Was it not obvious that Black Americans still had trouble finding employment post-slavery and were trapped in cotton picking jobs well into the 1900s? Are people truly this stupid? That's a question. That's a question. So and someone said I wasn't planning on watching it, now I'm rooting for it to fail. Like what he said wasn't woke. What he said wasn't woke. So there were some. Let me go to some of these quote tweets. So I mean this in all seriousness, but I truly think white people, the ones in America at least, only look at their family history starting from the 60s. Everything older is a footnote to them outside of family serving in the armed services and going off to war. Yeah, I hate for people being ignorant, and this person is claiming that he's lying just because he had a roofing company. Like, now some of these people are like, oh, I'm gonna see this movie because they like his story now, or like the actor's progression. The way people forget that after slavery they began sharecropping is a reason why learning about U.S. history and Black history is important. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Like, I always defend when people are like, oh, we got to get CRT out of schools and stuff. I'm like, good, because CRT is an ideology. Get it out of schools. Like, learn history. I love history. I love American history. And we're the good guys in American history, right? Like Republicans, all that stuff. So people just Anthony Mackie just saying his family history and people getting offended by it, that it just creates more of a disconnect of people thinking like, y'all really don't want to hear anything about unless it's like white tilted or white skewed. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying don't give these people ammo for this nonsense. You know? Like this comment section proves why America's full racial history should be taught in schools. I don't mind with people learning a lot, you know. I mean, but there's a lot of things that people don't know about how the Irish were treated. There's a lot of people don't know about how the Italians were treated, you know, when they came over here. If you want to talk about racial history in America, my gosh, the Italians and the Irish they were treated terribly. They were treated terribly. But I just want to remind people when they say we should learn more about these sorts of things, that there's only so many hours, let's be real, that kids have in a day. And there's only so many hours that you wanted to spend in school. Nothing is stopping people from learning all the history they want to when they get older, when we have access to the internet. You can learn whatever the heck you want. And people are happy, you know, them releasing a Black Captain America on Black History Month. I didn't even know it was coming out this month. People picking cotton is canceled now due to Captain America saying it's racist now. Say goodbye to the breathable fabric and enjoy your microplastic clothes. Someone said Anthony Mackie's father was a carpenter, gaslighting us into believing it's a big fight for power movement. Classic DEI playbook. Like, bro, he said 8th grade. Like, people in the comments trying to tell us he's lying. I'm not American and I know more about your history than you do. Educate yourself, people. So it's just in the comments kind of go on. I just advise everybody not to be so gung-ho to push back on this woke stuff that you guys look foolish. Like, he didn't say anything that was controversial in that clip. It's a cool thing. And if he was a white guy saying, hey, my dad had to, well, you could use a sharecropper thing where you could say he had to work, drop out in 8th grade to go work in the coal mine, and now I get to be Captain America. That would also be cool. That would also be cool. That would be great. If your dad was able to start his own business and put his kids through school and send one to Juilliard and got this cool position, that's amazing. We love American success stories, don't we? Don't we appreciate them? So, I don't know. Come on, people on the right, we got to do better. We got to do better. Yeah, like another person asking, well, what year was he born if he had to drop out and pick cotton? Like, it's no different than Tim Scott saying the stuff. You know, Clarence Thomas is old, is pretty old himself, but I don't know how old his dad was, but anyway, it is a little funny on a side note how many people are like upset about him playing it and thinking that he might be too woke for the role, but Chris Evans is so woke. And I mean, Chris Evans basically said, like, you know, if you adhere to like man and a woman kind of marriage and didn't want to see like the gay kiss scene on Buzz Lightyear movie or whatever, that he's happy, he can't wait for you to die. Like, I can't wait for you to die off like dinosaurs. Like, so Anthony Mackie is probably way less woke than Captain America. I mean, than Chris Evans. I'm sorry, Chris Evans, who I feel in a lot of Chris Evans interviews didn't really get the full extent of Captain America and kind of how great he was and his powers and all that kind of stuff. Like, you know, I was never like I think he played it fine. He was never my first choice. He was never my first choice. Um, my sister said, does this generation not understand that sometimes kids would have to work to help out the family? I don't know. Maybe they don't. Because I would have to people would have to have their kids not in school so they can help out on farms and go get a job young and do whatever they could to help make ends meet, like I could think of different you know going to different funerals and just reading different things in obituaries about how people had to drop out and go help out the family. Like Marlon Reed's mom, I mean, she knows who Marlon Reed is, Pastor Reed's mom, believe had to do that with the family as well, so that's what kids had to do a lot. We're very lucky today that our kids get to play apps on phones. Like Roblox and Minecraft, and that's their world. A lot of people, they were not that privileged, Anyway, let's move on. I want to talk about how the media is really, really obsessed with trying to tear a wedge between Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And I don't think it's going to work, but boy, they have been trying it from day one. I mean, we've already talked about this, but let me show you guys this Time magazine cover with Elon in the Oval. Now, what's the purpose of this? Do they really think Elon is running the government? Because I thought Trump was like a narcissistic dictator who was going to lead us into the Handmaid's Tale and all this stuff. And now you're saying that who's really in charge is this like, because they were scared that Donald Trump was a madman who's just terribly incompetent and a dictator. And now we're supposed to be hyper concerned because one of the smartest men in the world, who's had multiple successful businesses, who can catch rockets in midair, is the one who's actually leading the government. That's what we're supposed to be like terrified of now. So they've already asked Trump, like, well, Elon's doing all this stuff, and Trump's like, they're not doing anything, or if they can't pull the trigger on anything I don't want them to do. And I mentioned the other day, I think on CNN, Abby Phillips asked Scott, like, oh, well, people are concerned and saying that he has all this leverage over Donald Trump because he spent so much money to get him elected. Well, he's already elected and he's a lame duck president. So what does that have to do with anything? Elon has more money than Trump, sure. But he's got a lot of his own money and he's very old. I don't know how many years he's got in the tank anyway. So what kind of leverage do people think that he has over him? It's not like he can just be like, I'm not going to support your next run for president. There is no next run for president. He's a lame duck. So he's free in a way that a lot of leaders aren't free until they're a lame duck. So what kind of leverage does Elon Musk have over Trump? And what's so crazy about them freaking out about Elon is that he voted for Joe Biden in 2020. He voted for Joe Biden. He voted for Joe Biden. Elon is one of those people who's like, the left left me. I didn't leave the left or whatever. They just kept moving and I stayed. Like, he shared a meme like if the left kept going that way and he's like in the same spot, but they're all over there and he hasn't moved. And he cares about free speech and other principles that the left apparently has abandoned. So where is he supposed to go? And then there's all these lawsuits and things that the government came against him on. And he does all this stuff with environmental things and his green energy cars and all this stuff. And they don't care. They don't like him. So he sees just all these double standards everywhere. So when you push him out and come after him all kinds of different ways, why are you surprised when he switches teams? You had him, you had Joe Rogan. It's funny when they're like, we got to find our own Joe Rogan. You had Joe Rogan. You had these people. You had them and you screwed up. So Donald Trump was asked about this cover and it was a very quick response. And he, didn't let it get to him, which obviously I think the point of these covers and to ask him these questions is to get to him. And who knows, he might go on some kind of like rant on X or something later, but I don't think so. I think he's on to their game, I think he's on to their game.
Mr. President, do you have a reaction to the new Time magazine cover that has Elon Musk sitting behind your resolute desk?
タイムマガジンにイーロン・マスクが大統領の机の後ろで座っている写真がありますけども、それに関するコメントは何かありますか?
Is Time magazine still in business? I didn't even know that.
タイムマガジンは
He just looks so tired. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to play it. I meant to like just try to move the. It's just like, I'm so tired of this nonsense. I'm so tired of their nonsense. And then it's like, look, let me think of something. Let me think of something to hit him. A good joke. And then he says they're still in business. Now, of course, he knows they're in business because they just named him as their person of the year. And, he was happy about that, but, just making a little jab at them. But it's nonsensical. He's the president. What he says goes. And people are like, we didn't vote for this with Elon. A lot of people really found it attractive that Donald Trump was like running a unity ticket with all these kinds of different people that were like across the spectrum who are united in different goals. And I know that because, well, that's what a lot of people were saying when you just kind of looked online and stuff anyway. But he was campaigning with these people. He campaigned with Tulsi. He campaigned with, RFK, which I still don't really want him to have his position or whatever. But I don't know. It looks like they're going to be confirmed. I don't know. We'll see. Unless that's already happened and I missed it. But Elon, who like basically lived in Pennsylvania to get him across the finish line. Elon, who was like dishing out checks to people, which I got some of those checks, by the way. Like Elon, come on. If you're since I threw that out there, it was like a survey, something you had to just sign up and like on a petition for that you value the Second Amendment and free speech, and then like get someone else to sign up, and they would send you a check for $47. And then they were giving away $1 million too. I obviously didn't get $1 million, but yeah. So I mean, he invested a lot of his time and money, not just money, his own time. A lot of people can just write you checks, but for someone to take the time to basically set up shop in a must-win state for you, they're for your vision. And him and Elon saying that he wanted to run Doge, which at first wasn't called Doge, it was just kind of idea. I'm like, that sounds exciting. That's exciting. So when people say I didn't vote for this, I didn't vote for Elon. Oh, I certainly did. Not for Elon, but for Elon to be attached to this package and to do what he's doing. I sure did. I absolutely 100% did. That got me excited. Now I don't know what all the impact of some of these cuts are going to be, because I mean there are people attached to some of these jobs and all kinds of different stuff. So there's going to be some gutting. But if we spend too much, we spend too irresponsibly, we spend it on dumb stuff, and there's got to be some tightening of the belt somewhere. And it's just, when you work for the government, you're at the you don't produce anything. You're at, so they have to budget somehow. And when I understand people who've had a job for a while and they feel very comfortable being in the bureaucracy, but some's got to give sometime if you want to cut down on the spending at some point. You know, it just kind of is what it is. So I don't want people to be too mean and like braggadocious towards some of these like government employees. Like I saw, I think Buck Sexton wrote a post about like, oh, they thought more the reason why more people aren't taking these bailouts that Trump was offering is because all these people get like a cushy job and they can work from home and it's like $100,000 and et cetera, et cetera. And there are people in these comments like, my wife has worked for the government for X amount of years. She's worked overtime. She doesn't make $100,000. And I don't appreciate you guys like making it seem like they're just deadbeats, and so there are quite a few people leaving comments like that. So I don't want people to just be ragging on all these people who might be losing their jobs, and maybe they're not losing their jobs, but there's just a really, really negative view in the air right now toward government employees. And so I don't, I know people who work for the government, and I know some people who know that their job is stupid and we're still concerned about losing their job. As soon as Trump got elected, they're like, I know my job is dumb and it doesn't need to exist, but it is good money and I don't want to lose my job. But I like at the same time, I know my job is, doesn't need to exist. So it's it's a weird place to be in. But Elon, when he took over X, he like gutted it and ran it really bare bones to see and then fix problems. I don't know how well you can do that to government. I don't know. I mean, they're getting all these like obstacles like court orders and lawsuits and the protesting from the Democrats and the different articles that are written, and they're like, see, Elon Musk's approval ratings are down. It's like, good thing he's not gonna ever run for president. He's here to do a job that I wanted him to do. The Daily Wire wrote a piece about how actually the Obama administration led, or just the Dems built the world's biggest rake, then stepped on it. The Doge origin story. 1, Obama creates White House office to hire Silicon Valley types exempt from rules, USDS. In 2017 to 2020, staff used it to undermine the Trump White House from within. And that's another reason why I'm sure they're getting rid of so many people too, is because Trump had a lot of goodwill. Like, these are civil servants, whatever. And a lot of people they didn't get rid of. Like, when Trump first won in 2016, how the press treated him and some of the stories that were run about him, I would have been like, we analyzing everybody. We looking at everybody's press credentials, and y'all got to explain why y'all ought to be here. Like, I would have wanted to be like, we got to get some stories straight, because y'all were not, nonpartisan. Y'all were very biased. And I want to make sure we're going to have some level-headed people reporting stuff for the American people, because I don't need activists in here, and y'all gotta, like, I can let back in Politico and AP, and we can let all y'all back in, but I want to make sure y'all having a commitment to the truth and non-biased reporting, and y'all got to do some kind of reflection. Like, I don't know. There would have been some serious conversations, but they just let people in. And you see how Trump is with the press. He might be a little aggressive sometimes and give him a little razzle dazzle, or something, as my sister would say. Not the one in the comments, another one. But, but for the most part, he's so accessible compared to, of course, Biden. He's so accessible, and that's good for the press, and that's good for our country. But, they treated him terribly, and they gave themselves Pulitzer prizes for spreading lies on the Russiagate stuff, but the people that he left, like, in the actual administration, well, they undermined his people that he picked, his appointees like crazy, and his orders or whatever. They took advantage of him. So they're not going to do it. So if you're on the chopping block, just know that much of it is about government efficiency, and much of it is because the employees that you worked with before were trash, and they were not respectful to the new president coming in and his agenda and what he wanted to accomplish in government. That was about undermining him at every turn possible. Anyway, 2017, 2020, staff use it to undermine Trump's White House from within. Biden puts it under a political appointee, and number 4, Doge happens. So, Claire Bailey worked for MIT's Women's Gender Studies Department for kink.com. She later worked for Lesbians Who Tech, but the job she held in between was perhaps the oddest. Beginning of 2018, she worked for Donald Trump's executive office of the president. That's because even though Obama set up USDS under a political appointee, Trump turned the other cheek and treated them as civil servants. They played his kindness for weakness, hiring a conclave of far left activists. One employee moonlights as a kink-aware professional. Right? So these were the activists that Trump just kind of let play off of his kindness. Then operating from within Trump's executive office of the president, USDS conducted extreme DEI at a conference for lesbians in 2018. An entire panel was nothing but USDS queers. So that's interesting. That's interesting. Amy Paris was hired by the Trump USDS in May 2020, making him one of the highest ranking transgender identifying people in government. He used his position to push for airport screenings geared towards transgenders and non-gendered passports. And he's like, I'm not picking on them for being weirdos. There is a serious policy issue here. Here's an email Bailey sent to staff from the Trump EOP email address in September 2019, lecturing on cis white males with toxic masculinity. Let's read that real quick. I was at a conference in Boston last week, and the opening keynote was the most Machiavellian toxic masculinity focused approach to the project mindset I've ever seen. Let's talk about it. This is a chance for us to vent about some of the biases we've seen in our careers, especially those expressed as career advice, and talk about what we can do in our own community to guard against / dig out similar things. Please note, white, straight, cis men are welcome at this meeting, but please spend most of your time actively listening. Okay. DEI hiring doesn't so much filter for minorities as it does for activists. USDS employees would not help any tech or program that had to do with Trump's immigration policies. They would stall, say we don't have the resources. They're smart and savvy. Some USDS staff since embedded a permanent federal roles across the federal government. Others may have cashed in. USDS wrote a report saying an organ transplant database needed to be rebuilt. Then its staff quit, started a company, and got 1.4 million organ contract. Wow. So did Trump and Elon politicize Doge? No, that is UDS, was politicized years ago, openly dim during D administrations and independent during R1s, where independent actually meant leftist. This betrayal inside its own EOP likely taught a lesson. And then they have an article that they made about it, so you guys can check that out later. But yeah, they've got to gut it, man. They've got to gut a lot of this activist nonsense out of the government. They just do. They just do, guys. So Godspeed to Elon. Godspeed to Donald Trump. And I know they got a kind of a rough road ahead of them, but just because they're going to be fighting all this stuff with the Democrats, but the Democrats really don't have a plan other than screaming to the rooftops. So, God bless them. God bless them. I think they're surprised that Trump is not going to be, flat-footed or I think they're surprised that he's just not going to fall on his face like in 2017 when he became president, as far as like letting all this stuff kind of slide, and then the deep state being able to undermine him in every single turn. You know, Elon, it's a good thing Elon is with him. And people could be upset about the billionaire. Like there was I can't remember what news organization it was, but they kept asking a Republican politician, like, well, how would you feel if this was, how would you feel if George Soros had a team of people in the government and they were doing all these things? And my mind just started screaming, if, how would I feel if it happened? How would I feel if George Soros was influencing the government and had all of these elected officials doing his bidding? How would I feel? Gosh, how would I feel? I would feel like I would want a Republican president to take over and gut all the nonsense out. That's how I would feel. And that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Like all these people aren't like all these Democrats funded and associated with George Soros and sticking woke DAs and prosecutors everywhere and ruining states and different cities with the crime and violence and funding different protests and just making everything terrible. Like, come on. I also, I'm trying to see if I can find this Freedom Tunes cartoon that was pretty good. Maybe I'll have to go on YouTube real quick. But as I look for that, I do want to mention something, because I'm seeing posts like this about Paula White. Paula White was appointed to lead Donald Trump's faith White House faith office, and I'm seeing a lot of negative posts about it. And Paula White is like a long time, evangelical, charismatic TV evangelist. And if you have a problem with Paula White leading this for Trump, I think that's mostly kind of just too bad. Paula White has been his friend for a very long time. She's been connected with him, an advisor, and someone who prays with him and consults him and all this stuff for a very long time. You could not like her theology. You could not like the fact that she's a woman, period. And apparently that's how just a lot of people feel anyway, because she's a woman. I remember people just not liking Paula White back in the day because she had a divorce. And it was such a scandal. And she was like, there was no sin involved. And I remember my mom like, y'all couldn't, what do you mean there was no sin involved and y'all just couldn't work it out? And he be at one side of the house and you be at the other. And like, it was, it was a big deal. There's things you could point at, right? And people are combing through different things that she said, during her different sermons, and they don't like her. There's lots of complaints. And then people are suggesting all these other folks that they think would be better. And I'm like, well, I don't like the theology of that person you suggested. I don't like the theology of that person you suggested. And some people have made the point, like, guys, whoever is picked, we're all going to have disagreements about their theology and whatnot. But the important thing to know is that she's already like had this position when he was president before. So it's just like a reappointment. And they are good friends. Trump values loyalty. So some of these people, like this guy who I showed, John Root, was like, I have a good source that Trump is aware of all that it's been trending. He's like, we could keep talking about it and we can make a difference. I'm not saying that it won't. I think it's more likely that it won't. I could be proven wrong, but I think it's more likely that it won't make a difference because Trump values loyalty and she has been loyal to him. I remember when I was a kid in a church, in the church that I grew up in. That building isn't even there anymore. But I remember my dad telling a story about Paula White and how this millionaire saw her on TV. He had contacted her and said, I've been watching you and I love your sermons and I just want you to know that I consider you to be my pastor. And it was a testimony. I remember him telling the testimony in church when I was a kid. I'm like, this might be 90s, if not early 2000s. And that's how long ago it was. And so I got to hear Paula's side of that story back in 2020 on the campaign trail, because she was going across the country and they were setting up different evangelical events where they would talk about all the things that the administration had done, why it's good for Christians to go ahead and vote for Trump. And so there was one thing that they had in the morning that was kind of more technical for like the different policy stuff that they had done. And someone from Paula's office was running that service. And then there was another like really big service that Paula White was actually there. And she mostly talked about Trump from a personal standpoint in that service, which the service was really great too, because it was like in the midst of like the pandemic, not like the height of it, but I guess it was still pandemic time. So a lot of people hadn't been with other people anyway. I had, but but there's a lot of people there. And we started singing the song Waymaker, like during praise and worship. And I must have heard the song before, but I maybe just didn't pay much attention to it. And everybody just singing that song together was just so, I would say, powerful. And I was like, we got to sing this song at church. So we immediately learned it. And now we sing that song. But it was just so good for I don't know, to have so many people together praising God as one together when the nation had been deprived of that for so long. Not my church. We never closed down, but we have a small congregation. So like it was different for that many people to be together. But anyway, she talked about how, when she had a bunch of different stations, she was running, her program on a bunch of different stations or whatever. And so there was like this lo-fi kind of station. And so she was not going to put her channel on that one, but she felt like the Lord telling her like, no, do that one too. And so she did. And so it didn't, that one particular station or, didn't get like a lot of reach, but it did go into Mar-a-Lago. And that's where Trump started watching her on. And he really liked her. And he reached out to her. And he said, I, consider you my pastor, whatever. And she said the Lord told her to not take any of his money or anything like that. And that's not what their connection was for. That's not what their connection was for. And he has to know that he can trust you and stuff. And that's not what relationship is about. So there were times when he would come to see her, she would come to see him. And there were people who had like different charities and stuff. And Trump would be like, okay, let me write checks for your organization, or he would be with other business people. He like, write them a check for 10,000. You write them a check right now for like different charity groups. So she just showed like a different side to him that a lot of people didn't know. And so she's a great advocate for him. And so she's been a great friend for him. She I think she did the prayer at his first inauguration, and people were mad about that. And people started researching and popping up stuff that with her theology and different stuff that she didn't like. It was a discussion that she was a woman, discussion that she was divorced. All these conversations happened in 2017, 2018, 2019. Like people have had these conversations about Paula White. So if you're upset about Paula White being, Donald Trump's, advisor or whatever, you're just gonna have to be upset. They have a dynamic. They have a long time friendship, and he values loyalty. Like people coming at Pete Hegseth during his nomination process, Trump wasn't just going to back down on Pete Hegseth because he values loyalty. He values loyalty. So, you cannot like her, but it is what it is. Maybe you don't think that's good enough, but you just have to deal with it. There's more things to not like about him, more things to love about him. You'll get over this one. Just some FYI. Which, by the way, I did not look for that video while I talked about all that. There was a really good Freedom Tunes video that I saw someone share. I got it. Someone shared it on TikTok, which they didn't credit Freedom Tunes. If you're going to share Freedom Tunes stuff, make sure that you guys credit them. Like I've seen them complain about people taking their stuff and just not crediting them. At least give them credit. They do good work. But this is so my life. This is so my life right now, guys. That's why I want to share it.
Did you see what Trump did? He's rounding up mostly documented migrants to send them back. Oh, huh?
No, that's pretty much why we voted him into office, really.
He's even rounding up innocent illegals who didn't even commit a crime.
Illegal immigration is definitely illegal.
But did you know that Trump has already started sending peace-loving, patriotic, undocumented foreigners back to their countries of origin on planes? Bet you regret voting for Trump now, don't you?
Bet you regret voting Republican, huh?
I mean, now that I know this was always possible, I regret voting for every other Republican.
Oh my gosh! Mexico just denied the plane of undocumented doctors and lawyers that Trump sent over.
All right, that'll teach him.
Oh, no.
Oh, never mind. Trump is throwing undocumented better than us angel darling immigrants out of planes? Oh, you have to regret voting for him now.
You regret it yet?
You must be regretting it now.
Oh my gosh! Trump just signed an executive order to install a 50-foot tall wall around the entire country with moats full of alligators and fully automated laser turrets and razor wire at the top, and it's already finished construction!
Magnificent.
Bet you regret
You must
voting
regret it
for
now.
him.
Definitely regretting your vote now. Vote now.
Wow. All great news. Thank you, guys, for brightening my day.
I can't believe that didn't work.
Yeah, Trump specifically said they were going to get tired of winning.
Become a member at freedomtombs.com.
Yeah. Still not tired of the winning. So, yeah, people keep saying, Christina, what about now? Do you regret it now? Like, people were asking me, like, immediately after, like, the election, before he got in, before he could do anything. Like, did I regret? Like, no, I don't. And people ask me specifically about the immigration stuff. Like, do you regret it now? He's opening up something in Guantanamo Bay. Do you regret it now? I'm like, man, that's scary. And they're like, yeah, it's scary. I'm like, yeah, it's scary because he's like reading my mind, man. It's like he's reading my mind. Like, like I've thought for years that was a good idea to send people to Guantanamo Bay. Sorry. I didn't know that he was going to be as gangsta about this issue that he actually is. I'm very glad. Like, hopefully he doesn't, think about any like amnesty nonsense. Like, he was kind of open to that a little bit in his first term, but yeah, I like him going hard on the issue. I'm sorry. This is indeed what I actually voted for, and I am not upset about it. Now, I'm not saying he won't do things that will upset me. I'm not saying that. And anytime I complain about him, criticism is not regret. Just FYI, because there's definitely going to be things that he does that I don't like. I know that for a fact. Okay. But no, I will not regret supporting him over Kamala Harris. Absolutely not. Never. Never. Nope. Because guys, I think she's evil. Like, Anyway, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation at blacktnews.com/donate, because it does cost a stream, run my website, and all that good stuff so you guys can support. I appreciate it. You guys can also check out different merch that's available at blacktnews.com. You guys can also check out some of my books that I have written. If you need something to do this weekend, there's plenty of reading that you guys can catch up on for sure. So you guys can find my stuff at ninjadustpublishing.com is my book website, but there's a link in the descriptions on Facebook and YouTube that should take you to an Amazon page with my books. Thank you guys for hanging out with me this week. Some of you guys are like every day. I think most of you guys in the comments anywhere every day. So I thank you guys for being here, and those of you who watch back later and stuff. And I will see you guys on Monday. Be good, and be safe.